Remember some information from our sprouting class because it's going to help you with knowing how to do the Rejuvelac. First of all, what is Rejuvelac? Anybody here familiar with it? Rejuvelac, Sister Billy?
I'm familiar with the term.
Yeah.
Okay. Rejuvelac is basically an acidophilus drink. It is made by sprouting any type of grain. It can be quinoa, rye, wheat berries, oats, you name it. And that drink is going to give you a very potent acidophilus formula. Here we have finished Rejuvelac, which Brother Logan asked me to bring so we can all get a taste of it and see what it tastes like. The wheat berries that I have here have been sprouted for about a day. If we remember from our sprouting class, we're gonna get our wheat grains. Here I have about half a cup of grains. You're gonna soak it overnight for about 12 hours. And that's to wake them up, plump them up so they're not in a dormant stage any longer. Once you do that, the following morning, you're gonna strain, pour that water off, rinse them, and as Sister Catherine showed us, you're gonna tilt your bottle, put it in any container that is just at an angle, and you have some air, some circulation going in your bottle. So after a day, this is what you'll have. If everyone can see, they're starting to sprout. Now, you need your seeds, your grains to sprout for a day to 2 days. It's going to depend on your climate, how quickly the tails are going to grow for you. You want to have them sprouted, the tail of your sprout be about as long as your wheat grain or your quinoa grain, so maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And once they're in that form, you're going to rinse it well. Fill that same bottle with purified or distilled water.
Wait a minute, hold on. You said you want the tail of our sprouts to be the size of a what?
About as long as the grain itself. So you're looking at about a half to maybe about a 1/2 inch. Do about a 1/2 inch of a tail. And by tomorrow morning, these will be in that condition and they'll be ready to go. I may let you guys see it again once it reaches that. And we're just gonna fill the bottle with purified or distilled water. Put that on top of your berries and you're just gonna sit it on a counter. You're just gonna sit it on a counter in this condition. What I like to do is to get a piece of paper towel.
You're filling it all the way to the top of the water?
Yeah, you don't have to fill it past the neck
Okay.
of the bottle. I like to get a piece of paper towel and sit it on top and then put your lid on. The reason why I do that is this is gonna attract, especially in the summer, if it gets humid, it's gonna attract some flies. And the holes of this, the lid is wide enough where flies can go in your bottle and you really don't want that. So that's what we have. In about 2 to 3 days, your Rejuvelac will be ready. It's gonna look like diluted milk. It's gonna look like cloudy water. And that's when you know it's ready. You're gonna wanna smell it. It's gonna smell a little yeasty. You're gonna smell yeast. If you're familiar with baking bread, and once that yeast gets going and you smell the yeast, you're gonna smell a little bit of yeast. That is not a bad thing. Rejuvilac does have some yeast in it. I'm sorry.
Did you say leave it set for a day?
2 to 3 days. Yeah, 2 to 3 days. Yeah, the yeast in Rejuvelac is not a bad thing. We do have beneficial yeast, just like we have beneficial flora and bacteria in the gut lining our system. We also have beneficial yeast in the gut. And that's what you're gonna have in this drink. So even when I give you guys this to taste today, you put it to your nose, you're gonna smell a little yeast. Some people don't like the smell, but if it bothers you, you can add cranberry juice is a nice one, even unsweetened cranberry juice. Add it to it. You can add apple juice. You can dilute it any way you like. I don't recommend you dilute it too much because you're drinking this as a medicine. This isn't something that I drink every single day, or I recommend people just drink every day just to drink it. But it is beneficial because we all have some type of digestive issue, and every bit of this will be implanted, not just in your colon, but throughout your entire system. We have about 3 trillion amount of good bacteria in our system. If any one of us have ever been on antibiotics, ever drink alcohol, eat junk food, those are things that destroy your flora. Antibiotic is basically that, it's antibacterial. So when you take an antibiotic, it doesn't distinguish between good and bad. If you go to the doctor and they say, oh, you know, you have the flu, here's some antibiotics. You take that antibiotic, it doesn't just kill the flu. It kills your beneficial flora. And that is why the flora is so important. It builds your immunity and helps you to digest your food. So some of the recommendations for Rejuvelac is that you drink about 4 ounces 30 minutes before your meal. It is high in enzymes, acidophilus, of course. It's also high in vitamins, especially B vitamins, because B vitamins are made from bacteria. They're made from bacteria in the gut, and they're made from bacteria in this drink.
I'm sorry, how much you said to drink?
About 4 ounces,
Okay.
half an hour before your meal. And you can drink it at any other time throughout the day as well. It's not going to hurt you. But if you're drinking it to help with digestion or you have a lot of gas, that's the recommendation. Do it half an hour before your meal and you should see a difference. For every 8 ounces of Rejuvelac, you're looking at about 45 billion count of acidophilus bacteria.
Wow.
And that is hard to get even in a pill. You buy vegan pills and they're usually like 10 billion. You have to try really hard to get 20 billion. You'll get 45 billion in a glass of this. Yeah, brother.
This is to build up the good bacteria?
To build up the good bacteria in your system. Also to give you those enzymes and the B vitamins to help with your system.
So if you're feeling constipated, that's why you would do this, or?
If you're feeling constipated, yes, because when you're constipated, the bacteria count is not balanced in the colon. When you have too much bad bacteria, you know, constipation is a sign of that, because if your flora was really healthy and good in your colon, you would be able to go frequently, smoothly, without an issue. So to get that 3 trillion that we need in our system, you really need to replenish. You really need to replenish that.
Should you store that in the fridge then, and how long will it keep?
Yeah, that's the other point. This will store for about a week. Typically, if you make this amount for yourself, for your family, you'll definitely go through it within a week. The other point I missed is after you pour off or strain off that first batch of Rejuvelac, you can make another batch which will be ready in 1 day. After that, these berries are pretty much spent. In our sprouting class, we learn about the different vitamins and enzymes and everything that's in the sprout. Well, basically, when you add water to this, you're asking the sprout to donate all of that stuff and put it in the water. And that's basically what it is. And you're drinking that. So, if we have no more questions, we can take.
What other sprouts could you do that with?
You can do it with rye. One of my favorite is quinoa. The only issue is quinoa is so expensive that it's not really cost effective to buy quinoa and to make Rejuvelac from, because you gotta toss it so frequently. Buckwheat is another one. There are some people who have wheat allergies and are concerned whether gluten will be in this, and it's not. But if you just feel like you don't want to mess with the wheat, go ahead and do buckwheat or quinoa, and you can get a good drink out of those as well.
That's basically, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add that a lot of vegans don't get enough B12. Typically, B12 is found in meat. So if you aren't eating your meat, most of them, or a lot of them, are low in B12. So doing the Rejuvilac is a very, very good way of getting the B12, in the volume that you mentioned, if you're not going to eat meat. So just what you can add that.
Yeah, and from my understanding, B12 and most of our Bs are really produced by bacteria. Your B12 is produced in your gut. So part of the reason that vegans may be low in B12 is not necessarily the case that they're not eating meat, but is that the condition of their gut is not good. So,
Is this basically a natural probiotic? Is that what?
yes, it is. And as I said, 45 billion count in a glass when you're in a health situation and have a crisis and need some acidophilus.
Going back to the beginning, concern, I'm sorry. How much wheat berries to water? Like 1 cup of
About
water?
a half a cup. I believe this container is 64 ounces, the sprout bottle. Some people recommend using a whole cup of wheat berries to this amount, but what I've found that in a day, the drink is so strong and so yeasty. It's not palatable, and it's like in that range of, this doesn't seem like it's good. It's like overkill. You don't need that much. The sprouts themselves are pretty potent to give you the drink, so you don't need that amount. Just half a cup to 64 ounces of water. If you're going to do a gallon, then you use a whole cup of wheat berries. And as you soak them and they sprout, they're going to look a lot more anyways to fill up your bottle.
And you don't stir yours at all?
I haven't found that it's necessary to stir them. You'll find when you make the Rejuvelac, when you pick it up, as soon as you pick it up, you'll see bubbles just go crazy. That is active, and there's activity in there. So I haven't found it's necessary to shake it. Some people blend the wheat berries. I haven't found that's necessary either. Just them sitting in the water, they're, doing their thing.
The first 48 hours, we're leaving it soaked up to the top, right? Is that what you said?
2 to 3 days after you have your sprouts. 2 to 3 days, you're gonna soak them in that water. And then once it starts to look like pale milk or just cloudy water, that's when you know it's ready. Strain it off, fill it back up with water, and in a day, you'll have more to drink. You'll have another batch. after that second time, you want to toss them. You're not going to get a third batch. It's like wheatgrass. You can cut it maybe twice, but after that, it's a waste of time. You just got to start over and make another batch.
And after you go through your first batch, and say for instance in 1 week your whole family goes through the first batch, how often after that first week should you wait and then do some more, just for a health reason, just to stay, you know?
Yeah, it depends. If it's digestion, like I have a lot of digestive issues. I used to drink Rejuvelac a lot in the past, and sometimes you do so many things you forget what you used to do. It's not until Sister Catherine came here, I'm like, oh yeah, you know. So half an hour before my meal, I'll drink 4 ounces to help me get rid of that heaviness, even though I take digestive enzymes and betaine hydrochloride and all of that. I still need a little assistance to get rid of that heaviness. You're the one who's going to be able to tell whether it's helping you or not. As with everything, you have to see what dose is good for you, what dose works for you. Another thing that I've tried that helps is to do an implant with it. Everybody doesn't have to do an implant. Implants kind of help me a little more. It's basically putting about 4 to 6 ounces of it inserted in the rectum, and you know.
The Rejuvilac?
Yeah, off the Rejuvelac. And it's just giving yourself an acidophilus implant. And I find when I do that, my stool is different. You can do it with a fleet. The fleet is a nice, easy way to do it. I use a Foley catheter because I'm jumping ahead of myself. Yeah, a Foley catheter, it's maybe about 12 inches long. As Brother Wilson was saying, that is not best to insert too far up the rectum, that tip, because it's kind of hard. A Foley catheter is rubbery, so it really slides and go up a little further. And that's another way you can do it. But the fleet works just fine to do that.
Can you use a bulb syringe?
You can, yeah, you could use anything that works. Yeah, just to get it up there. I was talking, if you don't mind, Sister Cynthia, we were talking this week when I had the Rejuvelac, and she was saying she wanted to go buy some Rejuvelac because of what's going on with her, and you know, she's gonna be doing the coffee enemas and stuff like that. So that is another way to try to put some flora in. When you're doing a lot of cleansing and you're doing a lot of enemas. I started having a lot of colonics not too long ago, and I didn't understand that principle. And all I was doing was just washing out my floor, just washing out, because I wasn't taught and I hadn't learned that you have to replace. You can't just remove. So if you're in a situation because of your health where you need to do a lot of enemas or colonic, whatever it may be, you have to put something back in there or you're gonna mess yourself up worse than where you started. And this is just a cheap, easy way to get it done.
Okay, so it's okay that the little microbes can go past your tongue and all through your esophagus? They won't get stuck there and affect it or something, like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's a good point. And actually, all of this, you know, you're talking about your esophagus, everything, it's already supposed to be lined. It's throughout your entire body. They're under your fingernails and your toenails. We have more flora in our bodies than cells. And so they aid tremendously in our health. I haven't found that there's any part of our body where they don't exist. It's just most of it is in the large intestine. But it's all over. It's not anything to harm you or to, it's already there. This is Cynthia.
My experience with the Rejuvilac was wonderful. When I'm at home, it's a lady that I know, she makes the Rejuvelacs as well, but my favorite is the cranberry.
Yeah.
And I would do 4 ounces in the morning. And I noticed when I would do that 4 ounces in the morning after drinking my water, I had energy.
Yeah.
And also, I would urinate. It made me urinate more, even when I was drinking the water. So, and it also, like you say, the probiotics that it replaces and put back in the body. So that's why when I was talking and I knew what was going on and, I'm getting ready to take these enzymes, I need some Rejuvelac. And Mr. Taasha said, you're not going to find Rejuvelacs around here. I'm like, what? So I'm glad you make it. Yeah, but it really works. It's good for the body that I've experienced.
Right. Yeah, and there are some people, even because of that fact you mentioned, that say they can't drink it too far in the evening because it keeps them up. Because you feel this energy from it, And I have to say, because nobody's asked the question yet, which I'm surprised, but there is no alcohol in this beverage, neither does it produce alcohol in your system. So as far as inspiration goes, and we don't want to drink something fermented that's going to affect our minds or affect, our bodies. Anything that's going to turn into alcohol or may have alcohol, and it does not in it. With that, if everybody would like a taste, we have a couple cups. I'm going to ask.
I'd just like to say before we finish, anytime you're doing a intestinal, reestablishing intestinal flora, a lot of people make a mistake. Their colon is already infested with a lot of pathogenic bacteria. And they think that they can feed the intestinal flora with an already putrid intestine. It's all you find yourself doing is in a vicious cycle. You can do it, but it will not repopulate. You're just going to put Rejuvilac, probiotics in, and it's going to compete with those putrefacted bacteria. What you need to do is clean out first. Yeah. Clean out first, and now practically what we call intestinal gardening. Intestinal gardening is more than Rejuvilac, is more than probiotics. You have to feed the bacilli. Bacilli actually need nourishment. You have to feed them so that they will grow properly. And so what we normally do is come back and give some type of whey. We do some implant with whey and Rejuvilac, because whey has a natural sugar, and it's feed the bacilli that is coming from the Rejuvilac. And then that means you don't find yourself in a cycle, have to keep doing it all the time and all the time. Once you reestablish the population, they should be able to maintain and keep the colon at a proper pH.
So once, it's best to do the Rejuvilac once the blockage and waste is out.
It's good to go on a thorough cleanse, go on a thorough detox, and then start repopulating.
And when you mean adding it with the whey, is that going in the rectum or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go back with a whey retention enema. Now, this is after you do the Rejuvilac or probiotic. I would come back, do a replant or retention with a little whey. That's going to feed those bacilli that's growing there. They give them something to grow and repopulate on.
Now what's whey?
Whey you can make it from soy. It's similar to what we do with the Rejuvilac, but you make it out of soybeans. Like when Sister Smith make a tofu, that liquid off the top of it is whey.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Can you use the regular milk? Would it cause any problem?
It won't. No, you're talking about just do a retention with milk.
With whey.
If you make it, you're not this soy milk you buy in the store.
Right. No, not.
But yeah, if you take the soy milk that you make, but see, they separate the whey from the cheese. Mm-hmm. If you keep the whey that they separate, you can use that. Mm-hmm. But if you're gonna make milk from the cheese, from the soy, you're not gonna have very many bacilli in there. That's not many bacilli in tofu. Only reason you're taking tofu is because of the pre-digested protein. You're not taking it for the bacilli. And so you just want to ease the digestible protein. This is why you have to come back and need to do your intestinal guard. One other thing too is one myth is the people that said that vegetarians are deficient in B12, they measure that ratio from people that are deficient in B12. And guess who that is? Meat eaters. The meat eaters. They measure from meat eaters. So a meat eater ratio of B12 is much higher than a vegetarian. We don't have to have a higher level of B12 because a vegan live a much less stress life. The more stress you're under, the more B12 you're going to need. So now if you're a vegan and you're under a lot of stress, you're going to need a lot of B12. But we shouldn't have to have so much B12. Our teeth make it. That slime on your teeth in the morning when you brush, that's B12. Your rectum make it. So any part of your mucous membrane in your nose where there's moisture, it makes a small amount of B12. So your body is constantly making B12. And keep in mind, when God created Adam, He did not create him to eat meat to get B12. So either God made a mistake or something has messed up all the whack where we now have to eat animals to get B12. We don't have to do that. Even though it's the principal source is animals, but we don't have to get it like that. We only need a small percentage of B12 if we live a less stressful lifestyle. Now, if you live a high stress, you're going to need more B12.
So it looks like stress and constipation plays a part in everything dealing with the body.
The Bible says, so as you think, and so is you.
Yeah.
So our mind, 9/10 of all our disease is centered in the mind. So that's just the way it is. I mean, your body is a chemical laboratory, and being stressed can offset the way it functions. So this is why you're going to need this probiotics, you need Rejuvilac to replenish. But like I say, you shouldn't have to have it always forever. At some point, your body should say, okay then.
It'll start.
It should do it.
Yeah.
But now, if you've got a problem, you need to do it regular. You need to do it regular because this is a medicine. This is not a beverage. This is not food. This is a medicine. So it must bring you to a point where your body says, okay, I need less and less and less of that. If you notice that intestinal gas, bloatedness, like she's saying, digestional, you see it increasing, your metabolism increasing, then it's working for you. Yeah.
So what's the difference between kefir and the Rejuvelac?
I like the Rejuvilac. To me, I think Rejuvilac is the best. I think that when it comes to reestablishing the bacilli, I think that's the best one. Now, they got sauerkraut, they got a whole lot of ways you can get it. Buttermilk, but to me, this is the easiest, most digestible one to take in the body. So I can't grade this one better, but for my personal understanding, and I've been in the Rejuvilac for over 30-some years, down from Ann Wigmar's clinic, and watched them make it by the tons down there, but they really get into it. They used to, she's dead now, but I would say Rejuvilac, but that's my personal preference. I'm sure other people disagree with that.
Yeah, and I can understand what you're saying about making sure to clean your gut out first if you got all the bad stuff in your gut and you're taking the kefir, because I was taking some kefir before I came here. But yeah, I can't say I really felt anything different, taking it, and I can kind of understand that now because I know I need to clean my gut out.
Right. Now, Rejuvilac it can go bad. It can go bad quick. And I know I have had Rejuvilac and I let it set and it go bad, and you don't want to drink it if it go bad. So just be mindful. It's fresh, drink it when it's fresh. When it go bad, you don't want to drink it.
populate the bacteria and it becomes yeast infection or something?
I don't believe you can do it with Rejuvilac. Now, you may know better than me. I don't think it can happen with Rejuvilac. But I know you can do it with probiotics. I know you can do it with that. I know you can do it with acidophilus and lactobacilli. But I have never read any research where it can happen to Rejuvilac. So it could, but I never heard anybody say you can overpopulate with that.
So then that means you can drink it more often.
You can, but now, once again, what is your purpose? Your purpose is you drink it because you're sick.
Yeah.
Now, you don't want to be sick more often, so you want to try to get well so you won't need it more often. So, I mean, it can get to be like everything else, you know. I just like the way it tastes, you know. I like the way it makes me feel, and you don't want to get caught in that. It's got a purpose. Drink it for that purpose. The old people used to give castor oil every spring to give you your clean out. And that's a good deal. And maybe that's what we need to do with Rejuvilac. Set it up that every so often we drink some and then we wait. You know, seasonal. And that's even when you're well. Now when you've got a problem, you need it regular. Is that it for everybody? She's gonna let you taste this wonderful brew.